Hey, my name is Alex. I graduated from Stanford in math computer science, and what we're going to talk about in this video is how sportsbooks make money, but why you can still profit. So we've talked in other videos about arbitrage, so the fact that you can make risk-free returns off the sportsbooks. We've also talked about the fact that some sportsbooks are sharper than other sportsbooks. For example, here we see an arbitrage bet between BookMaker, arguably the sharpest sportsbook in the world, and FanDuel. So this bet on FanDuel, it's a profitable bet. It's a mathematically profitable bet. But what we're going to talk about more in this video is how do sportsbooks make money? What is their business model? It's not like DraftKings charges you a fee when you sign up for an account. So we're going to briefly explain it, but also explain why you can still make money. So if we go to the Cowboys-Buccaneers game, we can pull up, so here we see the money line, but we'll go to point spread just as an example. And we'll see that the main line point spread, which is highlighted in dark gray, is at most books, it's Cowboys plus 7.5 minus 110 odds, and Buccaneers minus 7.5 minus 110 odds, right? Most books have it minus 110, minus 110. Some books have it different, minus 105, minus 115, whatever, but most books have it minus 110, minus 110. That is the most standard, that is the standard point spread that books offer. You will see minus 110, minus 110 most frequently. And that's how sportsbooks make money. So what we can do is just pull up a little text document, and hopefully this helps make some sense. So minus 110, you have to bet $110 to win $100 of profit. So we see most sportsbooks have Cowboys plus 7.5 minus 110 odds, Bucks minus 7.5 minus 110. So we know that one of these bets has to win, one of these bets has to lose, right? The Bucks are going to win by 8 or more, and they're going to cover the spread, or the Cowboys are going to win the game or lose by less than 8, and Cowboys plus 7.5 will cover the spread. So one bet has to win, one bet has to lose. So you can imagine, let's say I bet $110 on Cowboys plus 7.5 minus 110, and you bet $110 on Bucks minus 7.5 minus 110 odds. So we're both laying $110 to win $100 of profit. That is how sportsbooks make money. You are always laying $11 on something that the sportsbook believes is 50% to happen. You're laying $11 to win 10, right? So to go back to this example, if you bet 110 on the Cowboy spread, I bet 110 on the Bucks spread, sportsbook gets 110 from you, 110 from me, $220 total, okay? Now one of us will win, one of us will lose, as we kind of mentioned, and the sportsbook will owe the winner $100 of profit, right? They'll only owe the winner $100 of profit who laid $110. So long story short, the winner gets $100 profit, the loser loses $110. So the sportsbook is earning roughly $10 in profit for every $220 bet. That is known as the vig. The sportsbook charges you a spread, and they essentially try to balance wagers placed on both sides. So what we see here is right now the spread is Cowboys plus 7.5 minus 110, Bucks minus 7.5 minus 110. If a bunch of people start to come in and bet on the Cowboys plus 7.5 minus 110, a bunch of, big betting groups, whatever it is, if Tom Brady gets injured and people start to bet on it, you're going to see that line move, right? It'll move to Cowboys plus 6.5 or maybe Cowboys plus 6. Sportsbooks are always trying to balance wagers on both sides and just make that spread. The ideal situation for the sportsbook, right, is they collect, an unlimited amount of money on this, and they just make their risk-free profit, which is $10 for every $220 bet. The sportsbook wants the same amount of money bet on equal and opposite sides. That is their business model. That is how they make money. So that is known as the vig, and you can look up a calculator to see how much sportsbooks are charging you. So what you can see is minus 110 odds, minus 110 odds, means the vig is 4.76%. That is the juice. That is what sportsbooks are charging you essentially to place a bet. And that means for every $100 bet, the sportsbook is just assuming, based on bettors placing bets on both sides, that they're going to make 476 in profit, right? That is the vig. So that's how sportsbooks make money. That's their business model. What's interesting is not all sportsbooks have the exact same vig. So what we can do is go here, Florida State Notre Dame game tonight. we can look at an example, right? We see the odds on MGM are plus 220, minus 278. So we can plug that into our VIG calculator, plus 220, minus 278, and you'll see MGM is 4.79% juice, VIG, house edge, spread, whatever you want to call it. So if MGM is getting offsetting wagers on both sides, they'll make a risk-free 4.79%. For every $1,000 bet, they make $47.90, right? And you can see Bookmaker, on the other hand, they have tighter markets. They're giving you better odds on both Florida State and Notre Dame. So they're giving you plus 223, minus 261. It's only 3.26% VIG, right? So for every $100 bet on both sides, Bookmaker's making 3.26%. So this is why it's important to line shop, is some books give you better prices than other books, which is what you can see looking kind of at this. Like, not all books have the same markets. We've talked about that. So aiming to use books that at the very least have low VIG, have low house edge, that means they're going to be giving you better lines and you're going to be able to make more money sports betting. So sportsbooks really always start with a leg up, right? Because they have this VIG. And as long as they're able to manage all their lines, they can just collect the VIG. And as long as they're able to balance wagers, they just collect the VIG all day long and they make a ton of money, right? If FanDuel charges 4% VIG and they're getting millions and millions of dollars bet on FanDuel every single day, and they're making a risk-free 4%, you can see how it's a pretty good business. But what's hard for sportsbooks is they have a lot of odds on their site, and they all want to have different odds because that is what makes sportsbooks unique. We've talked about this in other videos. DraftKings doesn't want the same odds as FanDuel. DraftKings, if DraftKings and FanDuel had the same odds, I wouldn't need a DraftKings and a FanDuel account. I would just need one of the two. They have the exact same lines. But sportsbooks don't do that because they want different lines. And for that reason, if you look at these U.S. sportsbooks, like you can just click on the Orioles-Yankees game, they have all sorts of things you can bet on. I mean, it's practically limitless. Most U.S. sportsbooks have over 10,000 odds on their site at any given time. And it's very difficult for sportsbooks to manage all these odds and balance the bets on both sides to just make the VIG. Players are constantly getting injured. Sharp bettors are placing bets and moving lines. It's not necessarily easy for the sportsbook to keep lines in sync with the rest of the market. So what you can do, and that's kind of explains why profitable bets exist. Here we see the line is ripping towards this Aaron Blanchfield fighter, right? The sharpest sportsbook in the world is giving you plus 248 on Sarah Alpar. That's a direct arb to FanDuel. Sharpest sportsbook in the world versus FanDuel, right? You're going to place that bet on FanDuel. This is a mathematically profitable bet. That is a bet that you would want to place. And you can see all over, that's why these line discrepancies exist. When line discrepancies are big enough that they cover the typical VIG, the house edge, the spread that sportsbooks charge, that's when you have a profitable betting opportunity, right? Like right here, Reds minus 3.5, plus 220 odds on Twin Spires. Opportunities are constantly changing. Just hit the refresh button, right? Sports is a market. These odds are moving. They're dynamic. And, that's the reason if you're able to bet $500 on this on BetMGM, whatever your bankroll supports, you can make a risk-free $15.62. It's because the sportsbooks aren't doing a good job at balancing the VIG, keeping their lines in check, yada, yada, yada. That's why profitable bets exist in the first place. And, that's why arbitrage exists, which is when you can place equal and opposite bets on two or more sportsbooks and make a risk-free profit. And it's also why positive expected value bets exist for that same very reason. Like here, it looks like the line at least kind of started to move towards the Giants. Maybe FanDuel hasn't adjusted quickly enough. You can get a 5.04% mathematical profit margin on this. Expected value to Pinnacle's no VIG or fair odds, which means essentially if you take the midpoint of Pinnacle's market, right here, Pinnacle charges a VIG. They have some implied price in the middle that's fair. So maybe Pinnacle thinks Giants, plus 0.5 should be roughly plus 105. This is a direct arb to Pinnacle. FanDuel is a direct arb to Pinnacle. You could place bets on both sportsbooks, lock in a risk-free profit. So one book has to be wrong. Pinnacle and Bookmaker are the sharpest sportsbooks in the world. So if you're going to play FanDuel or Pinnacle and Bookmaker, you should be playing on FanDuel, which is why this bet is mathematically profitable with an expected edge or mathematical profit margin of 5.04%. It may not win, right? There's still variance. This bet is still, not going to win every time. But when you shift the odds in your favor, you're essentially the one with the vig, if that makes sense. Like, you're taking it where the sportsbook typically has a 4.76% vig or house edge, and you're finding bets where you have the edge, right? So that's essentially what positive expected value betting is. Again, if any of this is confusing, you can feel free to reach out to us. And if you don't like taking risk, again, you can just literally, trade sports, day trade sports, and place bets on two sports books, two equal and opposite bets, and lock in a risk-free profit, which is kind of what you see in all these examples. And hopefully there are more and more as NFL starts, as college football kind of ramps up, and especially once NBA and NHL starts, as these opportunities are always changing. It's a function of how many sports are going on and how many games are in a given day. So you want to be checking consistently if you're using any sports betting software, because again, these markets are dynamic and great lines, they're not going to last forever. So I hope you found this video helpful. What is the vig? How do sportsbooks make money? How do you overcome it? Why can you overcome it? All those questions, hopefully we answered. If not, you can feel free to reach out to us via email. And thank you again so much for your time.